Hi, this is Liz Story. I'm a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, and I'm with Express Tax and Bookkeeping Services. Today we're going to do our tutorial about getting familiar with the home page of QuickBooks. We're currently using a desktop version. It's a QB Premier 2011. There's been a new release for 2012 already, and I'm very content to know that there's been quite a few additions that are going to be very beneficial because it's going to cut back on our inputting of transactions and also running special reports. But for now, we're going to be working on this 2011. I have opened a set of books called Sample, Larry's Landscaping, and Garden Supply. As you can see on the screen, we have on the left side corner where you can follow my cursor, and it says vendors, right? It's highlighted. A lot of companies need to actually input POs depending on the vendor. Others have inventory. We need to keep track of that inventory, not only when you receive it, but also when you're actually entering the bill. For those who need to run accounts payable and actually post the bills into the system and then pay the bills. So this is all in the upper corner right here. It's all vendor section. Then we have the customer section, the ones that we like the most, right? That's how we receive our monies. And then we have a sales order. A lot of times we have customers that do require that we send them a sales order prior to the invoice. And the good thing about this is that a lot of times you can make revisions and come back here and you can change the rates. If there's a class type that you need to input, any type of changes can be done within the sales order before you actually create the invoice. And if there's no changes, we're very simple. All we need to do at that point is to go ahead and just create an invoice directly, which is right over here. We will create an invoice. And this is something that can be emailed, printed, or mailed to our customers or clients. So let's go for the next step. Once we actually create an invoice, then we need to receive the payment. Okay? And normally what we do is we receive from, for an example, and let's say that Mr. Christina Andrews actually made a payment, and we're going to match that invoice with the dollar amount that she had just paid. If there is no invoices, then you don't have to hesitate. All you need to do in that case is record a deposit. Okay? We just go into the screen and create a deposit. Now, if in this list right here you see that there's a few open transactions, it's because those were previous invoices that you created that will need to be applied against that payment. If you don't, and you don't have an invoice, don't worry about it. Let's go ahead and cancel from here. And all you have to do is where it says receive from, put the name of the customer and directly make the deposit without an invoice. Again, this is very common for companies who use the cash basis. In other words, when you use the cash basis, you do not need to do accounts payable or receivable. So let's go ahead and clear this. So we already know a little bit about the vendor section up here. We know about the customer section, which is so extremely important. We have the refunds and credits. We have our employees. If you are using Intuit, which has different options and packages when it comes to payroll services, this is something that's going to come very handy. You can use what's called the partial service or the full service, which Intuit would take care of doing all your preparation and e-filing and submitting electronically all your payroll taxes, including your Medicare, your Social Security, your unemployment. I usually and strongly recommend clients that are not familiar to how the payroll tax and liability works to let another third party handle that. So this is a very good section, especially once you set it up. It's affordable. So I definitely recommend it. And then here in the top we have the company section, the chart of account. So if we want to go into the register for a certain account just to see what happened in the most recent transaction, we're going to double click and it's going to take us to the register. The register is going to show us the date, of the transactions. If it was a bill payment, that means if whether it was an accounts payable, if we have accounts receivable, whether we have actually direct checks that we have issued. This is very handy when you're trying to look for a recent transactions that's going to show on the report. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump out of here, and this is something that you definitely want to get familiar. The chart of account is nothing more than what you went through the QuickBooks interview process. In this case, depending on the type of industry that you're in, your chart of account is going to make a big effect. This is something that I tell my clients to look into investing and making sure that they have a very good chart of account and hopefully custom made to them, because this is going to define in a very specific way your financial reports, including your P&L and your balance sheet. The more specific you are about these general ledger accounts, the better reports you're going to be able to run. Now, like I said, QuickBooks does come with a standard chart of account or setup, but you do have options of actually having to do the custom-made chart of account. So let's jump out of here too, and so far we know we can get into chart of account and get into the register. Another shortcut is right underneath here where it says getting started. If you have that in a negative, just double click there. Okay, right over here. Sorry about that. Oops, let's say no, and we're going to do here. Account balances right over here. I'm sorry about that. And we're going to look over accounts payable. We got accounts receivable. We have right here a cash expenditure account. We have a checking account. So if I'm looking and trying to research something and I have very little time, I'm going to go into this option. So again, if you have the negative sign, just click on it and you're going to have a whole list of your bank accounts, whether they're CDs, money market, and so on. Here we're going to click on the checking account. The same thing we did through the chart of account, we can do it directly through this option too. Another thing that we're going to be using, like I said, recording deposits. We're going to be using writing checks. Every time we need to write a check to a vendor, or whether it's to our staff, or perhaps a independent contractor, whoever it is that we need to pay. Again, when we write a check, we're not entering a bill. And then we have the check register. Here you can also, this is a third option of how you can select to get into account. For an example, let's go back to the checking account. So far I've shown you three options. The chart of account, I've shown you the checking register, I've shown you right here the check register right over here. Sorry about that. And we also have writing checks into credit cards. We want to make sure that we keep separate any type of credit card that you're using for business, whether it's American Express, Discover, Visa, it doesn't matter. Let's make sure that it's selected and you have actually set up a credit card account for this. In this case, for an example, we do have a credit card that is called the QBCC Sales Department. Okay. Now, under that report, in that specific account, we can go ahead and enter the transactions that we see on the credit card statements. Once we have everything balanced in there, then we can go ahead and try to reconcile the counts, which will be on the next step. I hope this hasn't been too much information, but as we go from different tutorials, we're going to be teaching every single different aspect of how to utilize and take advantage of the full benefits that QuickBooks offers. As long as you know how to properly record the transactions, you shouldn't have any problems with it. So once again, this is Liz Story. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we will be teaching other ones in a very near future. Thank you so much.